Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. This show is an unrehearsed look into my workflow. I'm Stuart. I'm a 3D artist, illustrator, designer, and your pal. And I am fired up and excited to have you back again this week. So, the subject of this week's piece will be Aku, who some of you may know as the horrible megalithic villain from Samurai Jack, which is a show I've been revisiting recently and getting a little more into. Awesome show. Genndy Tartakovsky, I think, or Genndy Tartakovsky, if I'm pronouncing his name accurately, is the director and animation supervisor there, and his work is incredible. I'm a huge fan. I think the character designs are insane and really, really fun. And so, this week, I'm going to do a little tribute and recreate Aku. So let's dive in. I think we're going to keep we keep sort of a low poly model and keep the shading rather simple here. So let's get started. We can start with a cylinder for sort of the head here. I'm just going to expand that. Actually, let's add some subdivisions first. A few segments in the height. All right. You can see I've got some reference imagery pulled up here. I'm going to be referring back to this image quite a bit, though I don't think I'm going to aim to, reproduce it super accurately. Just reference. I think we should maybe start with the silhouette. Part of the excellence of this character design is just this crazy dark silhouette. Hey Chuck. Thanks for going through the old videos. Appreciate the kind words. I'm glad you find them useful. So let's see here. What's the best way to create this shape? I might just extrude it. Just kind of draw it out and extrude it. Oh yeah, I hear you, Chuck, on the time-lapse thing. But I do get conflicting sort of reports. Some people really like the time-lapse and don't love the full 2-hour stream. Some people really do like the full 2-hour stream. So I do get a mix there. I will say that for the time-lapse versions, if you want to view them at closer to full to normal speed, what you can do is in the video playback settings, you can reduce the speed to 0.25, which gets you pretty darn close to the actual recording speed. So that might be useful for you. Now we're just drawing out one side of this crazy tapering body. Yeah, let them speed up the video playback. Right, exactly. So that's sort of the trade-off. You can either slow down the time-lapse versions or speed up the real-time versions. Whatever you prefer. So you got it. So let's see. That's probably too big. Actually, you know what? Let's mirror this first. Character, mirror tool, mirror. Bam, didn't work. Let's do it this way. I appreciate that, Chuck. Thanks for tuning in. This is R20, water big. I was on R18 for a very long time. Let's see, where do we connect? But yeah, recently upgraded to R20. Dig it. So let's close that spline. I think it's probably a little bit too large. Hey Nathan, thanks for the question. That's hard to say. A rendering varies greatly project to project. Sometimes just a few minutes, sometimes hours and hours. It all depends on the complexity and polygon count and the lighting setup and the materials, a whole lot of stuff. If you add things like reflection or transparency to your materials, it can take much, much longer to render. So it's all about what you're rendering. Hope that answers your question. No, I don't use Octane. Keep it fairly simple, to be honest. I am able to get most of what I want to get done with Cinema's native renderer. The physical renderer is really great. And yeah, there's lots of options. It's served me pretty darn well so far. So I'll turn off constrain here. Gives you weird sort of artifacts along the edges. Okay. So here's what we're working on today for people who are just tuning in. We got any Samurai Jack fans in the house? The goal here today is to create something that is pretty true to the original character design of Aku, but different enough that it feels like an artist's interpretation. So I'm not trying to recreate exactly what I'm seeing in this illustration, and that would be difficult because this is a totally different medium. But excuse me, just sipping my iced coffee here. But I do want it to have that really trademark style and flair to it. So that is what we're working on today. I think this should be pretty simple. To Nathan's question earlier, I think this will be a relatively short rendering, depending on how it goes. But I'm envisioning not using a lot of reflections and fancy materials. I think what I'll do is keep things sort of simple and to try and hint at that 2D look. I think I'll kind of use luminance and just the diffuse channel. Keep things fairly straightforward. Now these are much too large, so let's shrink these down. And you can see what I'm doing here is that I'm not so worried about materials or texturing at this point. I'm using just really simple shapes to kind of block out the basics of the character design here. Now, one thing I don't love is that when I use the symmetry object, on a spline, it kind of changes the interpolation, which is frustrating. So I'm going to go ahead and delete some of those points and then just add the curve back in. I find that the fewer the curves, the fewer the points, the easier it is to control the curves. I haven't gotten a response yet, which makes me kind of sad. It sounds like there aren't any Samurai Jack fans in the house. Which I will say you guys need to remedy that because it's an awesome show. Super, super inspiring. The action is shot really well. It's kind of at first glance, it's kind of a simple, wacky cartoon kids show. But as you dig in, you realize, there's some pretty sophisticated character design and the level design or the environment design, the landscapes, the background paintings, really, really beautifully done. Reminds me a lot of Ivan Earl, who's one of my favorite artists, who's an old key artist for Disney films. He did the background art and a lot of the development for like Cinderella and some of those old Disney movies. He did a number of others. I'm forgetting exactly which, but phenomenally talented. And I noticed that influence in Tartakovsky's work. I think it's Tartakovsky. Tartakovsky being the creator of Samurai Jack. So there's your homework, guys. Go check out Ivan Earl. Go check out Samurai Jack. So here I'm just reusing those splines wherever possible. It was roughly in a position that I needed, so it made sense to just copy it and delete a point. Let's give ourselves a little more room here. Get the symmetry object going. And getting pretty close. Let's see what that looks like all in simple black. What's up, James? How we going? Thanks for tuning in. Spending more time than I thought I might trying to get these horns right. But it's worth it. It's all about that silhouette. He's got that very amazing, prominent kind of silhouette that I want to not get exactly right. I'm not trying to copy this verbatim, but let me get some of that vibe in here. That's feel better. All right. So I kind of want to start working on this face, which is very minimal but very awesome. It's another good place to lean into this symmetry object, so let's get into it. Got these big, very bold eyes. I want to use the luminance channel here to really kind of flatten these textures out. I don't want to go full, shaded 3D model style. I do want to kind of lean into this kind of 2D look a little bit. One of the other things I love about this character design and many of the other character designs for that matter in Samurai Jack is that they're really simple and the art style is very reductive and streamlined, but it's very expressive. They get a lot of personality and expression into very simple shapes. Things tend to be really exaggerated. The other thing that's awesome about this character is he can shapeshift, so he turns into all these different wacky creatures and demons and animals and stuff like that. It's very cool. Now, it looks like everything's kind of jammed together a little too much. I think what I need to do is widen a portion of his head here. So maybe it's a little more room. Better. So then we've got this sort of green area. Oh no. Accidentally undone or overridden my red material, which is something I do a lot of. So what I did is I copied that green material. Now I'm hoping I can paste it. What the heck? I guess not. I guess I'm going to have to remake it. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to make as much of this with primitives as I can. I think that's going to be almost like a 3D interpretation of this very graphic 2D art style. And of course, we've got these awesome lips, which will be very doable with some sweeps. So first, let's make a circle. I'm just going to copy that. So, you know what I'll do? Here's the quickest way to do it. Make a circle, throw it in a sweep, copy that circle again inside the sweep, and that's a start. I'm going to expand this one by hitting C, and shrinking this guy down a little bit, making him green, and we're getting close. So you can see how the mouth sort of dips down in the middle here, so shrink that down, and expand this up. A little too far on these guys. I think what I might need to do is add a few points here. I talked about making curves easier with fewer points. We've only got 4 here, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide this. I'm going to delete these guys. That's actually going to give me this rounder edge here, which is what I want. That's looking a little better. There we go. It's dawning on me now that this face is a little too low. There we go. That's better. Now make sure to hold shift so I can quantize the rotations here and all of the transformations so that I can do them again on both sides, just sort of keeping track of them. It would be very hard to kind of rotate this and then go back here and match it exactly on this side. So the center ones I don't have to do that so much, but dealing with sides that I want to keep symmetrical makes it much easier. What do we think? Not bad. Getting there. What we've also got is a smaller version of that sweep in red inside of the lips. It's almost like the shape of the face and then the lips on the inside. What's up, Kostya? Thanks for tuning in. I'll ask it again for any new people just tuning in. Samurai Jack fans in the house? Any Samurai Jack fans? So if not, you should be. We're working on Aku today. Right, not bad. You're welcome, Kostya. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you find them useful. I'm going to try and use a cone to make this nose shape. Now, this is one of those interesting things where we're taking 2D reference, turning it into a 3D model. So we're going to sort of have to use our judgment here. Figure out the best way to do this. So it connects to the eyes there, almost. Almost. Something like that. Not so bad, actually. Huh. Go. That is starting to look like Aku. Whoops. The other thing we've got is these kind of reddish nostrils that we're going to have to, we should try and bully those out of this cone shape here. Thanks to you, much has been done. That's a really nice comment. So let's try this. I'm going to copy this over to the side, rotate it around, and kind of reinsert it into the nose. I think what I could do is use a cone shape to sort of boolean out the nostrils here. I'm going to make this red, to throw it inside of a symmetry object. Symmetry. Go inside of that, and then that goes inside of a boolean. Boolean. You big boolean. And then, there we go. Not. I think I'd done this once or twice before. Old Aku. It's all about getting the angle right. So the negative space here creates that nostril opening. I think that's pretty good. Aku. Now, because so much of the interest is in the face, I'm thinking about just maybe cropping out some of the body below. Maybe this should be our camera angle here. Maybe a nice square format kind of dealy. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of an angle's nice. Maybe we can have a hand coming up as well. So I'm gonna lock that camera angle because I'm always prone to moving it around when I don't need to be. So now we got to do the teeth and this crazy goatee and these flaming eyeballs. That'll really round it out. Let's see. Alright, let's do these teeth. The teeth we can also throw inside of this symmetry. Start up top here. Kind of block out the basics first. Oh, it's funny that he's got a centered tooth, which is rare and unnatural, but hey, this guy's an interdimensional demon, so it makes sense that he would have weird asymmetries. A tooth right in the middle. Copy this off to the side. I'm actually going to just expand it and turn off soft selection and kind of angle it, because that's what it looks like these teeth do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a couple cuts. I was thinking maybe I should have grabbed a cone, but let's see how it goes. Let's turn subdivision surfaces back, sorry, soft selection back on. Drag this tooth down, adjusting the size first. Drag it down, back up. is not bad. It's a little bit small, so let's scale it up. And I also want to throw it in a subdivision surface just to smooth it out a little bit. It's tough to say in a 2D character, but I get the sense that these teeth would sort of angle out a little bit here. Probably these teeth as well. All right, so Chuck. So not specific to this, but I'm wondering, through your last practice, decided to use. I'm working through your last practice and decided to use an Illustrator file of paths as the shape of the gameplay. Placement of buttons. That's a good idea. It allows you. I mean, depending on your familiarity with the programs, if you're more comfortable working in Illustrator, it can be really useful to build things out there. I do that a lot with typography as well. It's easier for me to trace things out in Illustrator a lot of the time. Although my skill set is changing a little bit. You know, years ago, it would have definitely been easier to build everything out, build all my vectors out in Illustrator first. But I'm finding actually the more and more time I spend inside of Cinema, kind of the less comfortable I get with Illustrator, which is kind of an interesting thing. It's all about your familiarity with the tools, right? I mean, I guess that's the case with anything. I wasn't loving the overlap there, so I just did the angle a little bit. I think that's better. So you have undeservedly few views. That's a really nice comment, Kostya. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. Maybe the YouTube algorithm doesn't love me. Maybe maybe people don't really care about Cinema 4D. You know what I think a lot of it is people don't necessarily want to watch an artist kind of figure things out as they go, or I should say many people don't. Obviously, you wonderful people with good taste know what's up, but I think a lot of people just want to go online and they want to read a tutorial and be told exactly how to make a specific thing. And this is more about the exploratory practice of you know, finding your artistic voice and figuring out how to make things. And I assume, you know, look, there's lots of great tutorial folks out there, like, you know, Grayscale Gorilla, iDesign. All those folks are, you know, better than I am, better than I probably will ever be at doing really polished tutorial content. So, you know, it's not even in my, I don't know. I'm not that interested in trying to do that exactly. I think that's probably the biggest market for Cinema 4D content online. It's going to be stuff like that, which is cool. More power to them. But you know, I prefer to just make artwork, and it's awesome that I'm finding, you know, an audience for people who want to watch me make my art, because I like doing it. All right, these teeth are awesome. I'm really loving how these are coming together. So how do I get the viewership up? What do you guys think? So other 3D programs. Yeah, that's true. And it's free. I hear a lot of good things about the new Blender. Ah, Aku. So that's our first little test rendering there. Digging the way it's coming out. Here we got to do the fiery goatee and eyebrows now. I'm getting to lighting and texturing in a little bit. Look how awesome this fan art is. Jason Kang, well done. That is badass. This is a That's a fan art as well, pretty well done. What do those hands look like? What's an Aku hand look like? Oh, like that. I might just draw that out. I know this is really cheesy. Nah. Change my mind. Yeah, agreed, Chuck. It's pretty dope. I mean, I think we owe a lot of credit for that color palette to the guy Genndy himself, because the character design is really great. We have 4 fingers, so let's just kind of draw these out. Just when I think I can make things easy on myself, I decide to go ahead and start modeling a hand. I'll never learn. It's the wrong button. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate that. And that's probably part of the reason that I don't get as many. I don't know, that I'm not higher in the algorithm, so to speak, is because, yeah, you know, I don't necessarily get a ton of comments. Some weeks I don't get any comments. That's a bummer. I only have a video with a delay. Not sure what you mean by that, Kostya. Oops. Alright, cool. So what I've done here is once I got that first finger set up, I just copied those splines, those sweeps rather, and put the new splines in them because I knew that I'd want to be recreating that. That's pretty good. It's not perfect. I think we can work with that. Let's call that the arm. Yeah, I use this plugin here called Magic Solo. If you just Google Cinema 4D Magic Solo, I think you'll find it. One of the only Cinema 4D plugins I use with any regularity. Super useful stuff. Really has become an integral part of my workflow. I'm just going to sort of position this guy. I'm actually going to make a copy of him before I mess anything up. I always like to make a little off null here and drag copies of things into it. Ah, Mady or Mate? Not sure how to pronounce your name, but thank you for viewing. Greetings to you in Bulgaria. And I'm glad to finally get a Samurai Jack fan in the audience. Big fan of Aku here. Alright, let's get some interest going on with these fingers here. What I'm going to do is just, instead of doing fancy rigging or something, anything like that, I'm just going to grab the points, right? This isn't going to be like a flexible character that we're going to come back to all the time. And you go through that whole, rigmarole of rigging something. But then what is rigging? Rigging is, it's adjusting points and handles and stuff like that. And so I'm just going to use the spline itself to adjust these points and handles. Hmm. No, to be honest, there aren't a lot of plugins that I use frequently, Chuck. I used to use like those light kits that Grayscale Gorilla would put out. But I found those would just take forever to render. And I also found that once I understood Cinema's rendering engine a little better, that I could just recreate that stuff fairly quickly and easily. And don't focus enough on like um, you can get lost in the technicalities of things and not spend time on the core principles that are going to make you a better artist. You really got to develop your eye, and you can make. I've said this on a lot of episodes in the past, but you can make amazing stuff with just crayons. Like seriously. So, Cinema 4D, even with just its native features, is incredibly powerful, and I think people are. I mean, maybe I'm showing my own lack of knowledge by saying you don't need all that stuff. Because I know there are certain things that Octane will do better than Cinema, for example. But I find that, at least for me, focusing on the image itself and not the plugins or the lighting setups and all that stuff. Focusing on what is it that draws you to an image. A lot of times it has nothing to do with the quality, so to speak, of the rendering, but it's the quality of the image itself, if that makes sense. It's sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here as I'm reading menus. It's the quality of the image. It's the idea. It's the composition. It's if it's a landscape, maybe there's a really bright sunset, and you can just do that with a big orange sphere, and it works, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be this really fancy lighting setup. So, where's Subdivide? I know there's Subdivide someplace. There we go. Thank Kostya. Thank you. I've been working hard on that for a long time, that portfolio. I appreciate those kind words. All right. Now let's go back to a head-on view. I'll start drawing out this goatee and the eyeballs. I think for the goatee, I'm just going to do a series of splines. Sweep these bad boys. A lot of sweep nerves today, yeah? Yeah, Magic Soul is amazing. Glad you found out about it. I don't even know what my workflow would look like anymore without that. I use it like all the time. Another thought relating to plugins is I would also recommend that people really get an understanding of the core functionality of Cinema 4D and really spend a lot of time, understanding what it's like to work in a 3D suite. I think people can come from, can hop into Cinema as the first time they've ever really used 3D software. And then they start using plugins, and it becomes like a crutch, and they don't really have a core understanding how to make certain things work in their 3D software. And I think there's a different way of thinking about working in 3D that it took me a long time to get used to be honest. It's not like working in 2D. There's certain workflows, there's certain ways of approaching an image or a project that's just going to be different from a 2D approach. And I think it's worth really learning those principles before getting fancy with plugins. You got to learn to crawl before you can walk, and then walk before you can run. All that good stuff. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Chuck. Because I do use my keystrokes a lot, my keyboard shortcuts, and it would probably be advantageous for folks to see what I'm doing. Most of the time, I'm just using W, E, R, and T for my coordinates. Like the jankiest arm ever. That's what I was connecting. It's not even close. I'm making a quick copy of this goatee for the eyes here. I'm going to need to modify them a bit. Not quite right, but you get the idea. It'll be a jump start on what we need to make ultimately. Yeah, Kostya, I've probably been working in cinema for 10 years, something like that. It takes a long time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, for sure. That's partially why I call, yeah, like not partially, that's a big part of why I call this show The Practice. It's because, I mean, a few hours of practice once a week is like the bare minimum it's going to take to get where you want with cinema. The good news is that it's really fun, and I've like really enjoyed the process of learning and diving in. I love making artwork, and I like playing with computers. So cinema was just like a super natural choice. Um, I should say graphic design and digital illustration, all that kind of stuff was a super natural choice. Um, that's weird. But yeah, I mean, just like anything you want to get good at, it's going to take time. It's going to take effort, and that's nothing to be afraid of. That's a good thing. You know, I don't use enough red in my personal work. This is an awesome color combo. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for watching, Chuck. Thanks so much for the kind words and the support. See you on the next one, hopefully. All right, looking pretty good. We should start lighting this guy. We'll start with a spotlight here. We'll start with kind of a reddish spotlight. Thanks, Kostya. So I'm liking some of the shading that's going on here, but I do want to maintain a little bit of a flat look. So what I'm actually doing is bringing the color channel down a little bit, the luminance channel up a little bit. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I also think we should start getting some background color and texture going. This, you can see the body is totally disappearing. I think that'll happen two ways. First, let's get a sky object in there. Kind of a dark red color in the luminance channel. Actually, you know what? See what that gets us. So I think it's pointing in the wrong direction, and it hasn't even been applied, so I always do that. All right, let's try again. I think I also want to start building up some noise. I think one of the things that Samurai Jack does really well, the art here, is it's always got this really great grainy, noisy, painterly quality. So let's see if we can't create a shader here. Let's add a layer. Start adding some noise to this layer. Some noise shaders to this layer, I should say. Just making some last minute sort of compositional adjustments here. I want to get things sort of more in balance, get the scale of things right. This hand is awesome, but it's definitely taking up a lot of space in the composition. And as fun as it is, I don't want it to overpower the face. So you see I adjusted some things up and down in size. I'm trying to balance them out, see how this looks. Not bad. A little bit more grain in this background. And we'll be darn close to where we want to be. I don't like, though, is the overlap with these guys. I'm going to scale this dude up. See, it has this little corner poking off the edge there, which I don't like. Actually, maybe I should rotate those forward. Maybe scale them all down a little bit. Now, although the color in the show is pretty flat, I thought it might be cool to add just a little gradient to this. Just get the tips of the flames with a little bit of this orange color. What do you think? This is our interpretation, right? So we can make a few little tweaks and adjustments, and I actually kind of like that. Whoops. Wish you could just copy paste this. I think you can duplicate it. Copy shader, paste shader, there we go. Right. It's an episode. Let's start cranking out a final rendering. The good news is we'll double this up, make a nice big rendering, and it should render really quite quick. No GI, none needed, because we've got a very simple lighting setup. And it looks pretty sweet without any GI. So we're going for sort of a flat graphic look here, so tons of fun. This just goes to show you that you can make a pretty neat image without any like fancy plugins or lighting setups. So I'm going to fire up Photoshop while that's rendering, so we can do a little bit of color correction and retouching. We'll be good to go. Sadiq, thanks for tuning in. Glad you like it. I'm a huge fan of Samurai Jack. For anyone showing up late to the program, this is the super villain in the show called Samurai Jack, sort of the arch nemesis of Samurai Jack. It's called Aku. He's a shape-shifting demon. He's a real bad guy. He's kind of hilarious, and the character design is amazing and awesome. Here's sort of the reference image I was working from. And the show itself is animated really well. The style is amazing. The art direction is really amazing, and I recommend people check it out.